Hey folks, good morning. Rick here from the LaLa Farm. So last night LaLa and I were sitting out on the front porch. Last night LaLa and I were sitting out on the front porch and she said, hey, would you like to make a London broil tomorrow? And I said, absolutely. And then she told me the recipe that she wanted to use, and it's got Jack Daniel's honey in it. Sounded delicious to me. Let's get cooking. All right, folks, so this recipe has both a marinade that we will marinate the London broil for 4 hours, and then it also has a dry rub, both of which we're going to prepare. So these are the ingredients for the marinade, which is this recipe has been doubled because I'm doing 2 London broils. So the characteristics that I give you for the recipe are for 1 2-pound London broil. Again, we've doubled that because I'm doing 2 on the smoker. So a 2-pound top round London broil, and then 50 milliliters of Jack Daniel's. So I converted that to cups, and it's about a 1/4 cup. So we've got half a cup of Jack Daniel's Tennessee honey whiskey. Apple cider, 1/4 cup is what it calls for, so we've got a half a cup here. And this is a special cider that my mother and father-in-law got me, and this is from Lane's Cider Mill up in Canisteo, New York, where I grew up, or LaLa and I grew up, or near there. And this is fresh cider that was pressed and then fermented into vinegar. So I got to get with my in-laws and have them get us another bottle of apple cider, apparently. Then we have extra virgin olive oil. There's a full cup in here. It's a half a cup per London broil. Then we have 2 tablespoons of kosher salt and 2 tablespoons of fresh ground black pepper. So that is the ingredients for, or then we got over here garlic powder too, so a tablespoon of garlic powder. So let's combine these ingredients, then we're going to put them into 2 1-gallon bags, and they will marinate for 4 hours. In the interim, we will get the rub ready, and then after the 4 hours, we will get them rubbed down, get them onto the smoker, and get some of that delectable goodness made. So here we go. Let's start off here. About a half a cup of Jack Daniel's honey, 2 tablespoons of garlic, about a half a cup. Now look at this, the little bits in there. That's actually pieces of apple from when this was pressed they're in the bottom of that bottle. So about a half a cup of cider, apple cider vinegar, and we have extra virgin olive oil. So that's a full cup there. Again, these measurements, remember, are double what the recipe is because we're doing 2 London broils. And then 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of black pepper. There's 2 London broils that LaLa put in to thaw out yesterday. So we're going to put them inside of a 1-gallon freezer bag, and then put the marinade into the freezer bag, pop it into the refrigerator for 4 hours, and then rub it down, and it will go onto the smoker. We got a good deal on these. These were buy one get one free at our Winn-Dixie store several weeks back. You can't ever complain with that. Alright, so here's our 2 London broils. sure we get equal distribution between the two, I'm going to use a measuring cup. It's already starting to separate a little bit. I'm going to use a measuring cup to put it in each bag. That way I know I've got roughly the same amount in each one. And that's the marinade right there for each one of these. So while they're in the refrigerator, about once an hour or so, the marinade will kind of settle to the bottom, obviously. So I'll come in here and I will just kind of move it around a little bit and get that marinade up on top of it. That way we make sure we get good coverage. So into the refrigerator for 4 hours. Alrighty, so it's been 4 hours since we put the meat into the refrigerator to marinate. So let's get this London broil out. We're going to take it out of the marinating packages, and then we're going to do our dry rub, get it all coated up. We've got the smoker preheated to 225 degrees. So here is this marinated London broil. These are two 2-pound pieces of meat. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this away, we're going to prepare our rub, and then we're going to come back and coat this. Alright, so I'd like to say that this is a pretty simple rub, but it is not. Again, this is a recipe that LaLa had found, and she said, this is what I want to make, and I will never turn down the opportunity to smoke on my grill. So lots of ingredients here, and keep in mind I'm going to be calling out the actual amount that I'm putting in, but that's for 4 pounds of meat. So the actual recipe only calls for 2 pounds of meat. So we're going to start off with 4 tablespoons of smoked paprika. If you've never had smoked paprika, you are missing out, because it is an amazing spice. It just gives a real rich, deep, smoky flavor to whatever you're making. Seasoned salt, 2 tablespoons of seasoned salt, 6 tablespoons of fresh ground pepper, 8 tablespoons of brown sugar. I'm not one to put generally a whole lot of brown sugar in my recipes, unless it's going to be cooked really at a low temperature, because it tends to kind of burn. You know, a little bit of brown sugar goes a long way, because it adds that sweetness to it. So then 6 tablespoons of chili powder, 6 tablespoons of ground cumin, 6 tablespoons of ground coriander. So I mean, there's a lot of ingredients in this rub. And 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper. So this has got a lot of black pepper, a lot of chili powder, and cayenne pepper. So this is going to be a fairly spicy rub. Not sure, hopefully the kids eat it. I know the adults will. So I'm just going to take a fork, kind of get this mixed up good, broken down. Some of the spices tend to clump when they're in the jars. So, you know, interestingly, this recipe did not call for any onion. Many of the rubs that I use tend to call for onion in the rub mix. This doesn't have that. Again, it's paprika, smoked paprika, seasoned salt, fresh ground black pepper, brown sugar, chili powder, ground cumin, coriander, and cayenne pepper. So what we're going to do is we're going to, you know, this is kind of hard to do sometimes. I try to handle the meat with one hand and then use my rub with the other. That way I don't get all clumpy inside of the actual rub itself. And just rub it in really good, work it in. I am not one to be sparing on the rub. Ultimately, this is the flavor that meat is gonna take on, because this is gonna cook down into that meat. So make sure you get all the nooks and crannies. And we're gonna do this other one. Alright, so I think that's gonna get it. I'm gonna go throw these onto the grill. And measure the temperature in here. It's about 152 degrees. It's about 156 degrees in that one. So I'm going to give them about another 15 minutes, and then we'll take them off, let it rest for 15 minutes. And then cut into it and enjoy. Alright, so we're going to pull this off. So there we go. There are our 2 London broil top rounds. They were on the smoker for about 3.5 hours total. Took them off at about 150 degrees. They've been resting for about 15 minutes. So let's cut these open and give you a peek in. It's really important that on these types of cuts that you cut across the grain, because you want those muscle fibers to be really thin. So this is actually one of the knives, really sharp knife, that we use to process our chicken. So this thing cuts this like butter. So there you go. So there you go. That is a London broil smoke ring right there. Perfectly done. That is really tasty. If I were making it again, I'd probably cut back a little bit on the pepper, cut back a little bit on the cayenne. But overall, this is really, really good. Highly recommend. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Make sure you ring that notification bell for future content. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Friends, always remember, treat others as you would like to be treated. Be well.